Hello and welcome back. My name is Venus Green. Thank you so much for joining me today. We are going to be talking about Mars conjunct Uranus and Gemini in this video. Now, there are moments in life when the rhythm changes quickly. It could be a conversation that takes an unexpected turn, maybe new information comes in. That's going to cause maybe plans to shift, but something that seemed settled is suddenly going to need a response. And before we have time to fully process what's happening, we can likely feel the pressure to decide what those things mean. And this is the part of the atmosphere around July 4th. Mars and Uranus come together in Gemini. And Mars brings movement, action, urgency, and the instinct to respond. And Uranus brings disruption, surprise, breakthroughs. Overall, it's a desire, though, for some greater freedom. Now, together, they speed things up quite quickly. So it's not necessarily bad astrology, but Mars and Uranus can really break a pattern that has gone stale. So this can bring in a new idea, could bring in a needed conversation, or just a shift that helps to open a door that we weren't able to see before. Now, the challenge is that rapid change can activate the nervous system before the mind has had time to really understand what's actually happening. So in this video, we are going to talk about that energy in a very conscious way, right? How do we stay present when the pace changes? How do we recognize the difference between a real need for action and the pressure to react? And how do we use the energy in a way that creates movement without losing our center? Because I do think that one of the most important things, well, in the top 5 anyway, of astrology is helping us find our center and then staying in our center in moments like this so we can make the best decisions or pause if that's what's needed. Now, Mars and Uranus both create motion, although they move in very different ways. Mars wants to act. It wants to push forward. It likes to make a decision, take initiative, and just deal with what's happening right now. But Uranus really interrupts the usual rhythms that we have. So it can bring this unexpected development. It changes our plans. It's surprise messages that comes through. Some way there's a breakthrough, right? Or this realization that the old approach is not going to work anymore. In Gemini, the movement is going to travel through information. Gemini is connected with communication, media, technology, transportation. It's also about learning, all messages and conversations. It's also your local environment and the way that ideas move from one person to another. So this conjunction can really show up through some rapid changing news. It could be unexpected messages. There might be some technical issues that you are experiencing and maybe some transportation changes or frustrations. It's very fast moving conversations, sudden ideas, or just information that changes how we understand a situation. So that can always bring some level of mental restlessness. And you might feel or notice that your mind is moving more quickly. You might feel pulled in several different directions at once. You might also receive some information that changes your plans or maybe makes you rethink a decision that you thought you'd already made and had settled. The key here is to give yourself some room to process before deciding what the moment requires from you. A single conversation could very well matter. A piece of information might be extremely important. A change in plans might feel like it's leading you somewhere very useful. All of that could be true. But at the same time, one message, one headline, or one emotionally charged moment rarely gives us the entire picture. Mars and Uranus can create this powerful opening for sure, right? The question is, how do we meet that opening? Now, if we take a look at the moon, right, that really gives us a closer look at how the energy is going to feel emotionally as these things unfold. Now, on the 3rd of July, the moon is in Aquarius and it's going to be opposing Venus and Leo. This is going to create some tension between personal desires and the expectations of a wider group. People are probably going to feel very sensitive around attention, belonging, relationships, approval, also money, right? Or just the feeling that their individual needs are being overlooked. After that opposition, then, the moon is void for more than 13 hours. Now, we don't really like to do things when the moon is void. Certainly not new things, not meeting new people, right? A void moon can create this sense of suspension, though. Something may feel like it's unresolved. Plans are probably not going to move in a straight line at all, and people are going to be waiting for some more information, or maybe just sensing that this situation hasn't fully revealed itself yet. That's the part of the nervous system that we need to pay attention to. Now, then on the 4th of July, the moon is going, and this is early, the moon's going to move into Pisces. And that atmosphere becomes more emotionally sensitive, intuitive, and porous, right? Those are very Piscean themes. Pisces can make us more aware of what's happening beneath the surface. So we might notice a tone or a hope or fear, some tension, right? Or just some uncertainty before anyone has fully been able to put their finger on it or name that thing. The first thing the moon is going to do is sextile Chiron in Taurus. So that's going to bring up some questions around things like safety, security, self-worth, comfort, and overall the stability, right, that's happening in this emotional field. Then the moon's going to meet with the North Node, and that can make the day feel significant. People might sense that there's definitely something shifting, but they can't really explain what it is yet. And later that morning, the moon will make it square to Uranus and to Mars. So this is where the pressure starts to rise. The nervous system is going to feel like it's more activated. Information is going to be moving quickly, and people are going to be feeling restless, impatient, overstimulated, and more likely to respond from emotion rather than some sort of logic. And this is the part of the transit where rushed messages, sharp reactions, assumptions, and impulsive decisions can become more likely. And that doesn't mean that something terrible has to happen at all. It means that the pace of the movement can make it harder to tell the difference between what's truly urgent and what just feels urgent. That distinction really matters. When the emotional field is moving this quickly, the first reaction is not always the most informed response, right? Take a breath before answering your message. Verify the information before you share it. Give yourself some time to decide that one sudden change, what does that mean to you? And does it require you to abandon your entire plan? Probably not. Mars conjunct Uranus is the spark. It can bring the interruption, the surprise development, that conversation that changes the tone, or it's the moment that makes it clear that something has to move. But this conjunction is not operating all by itself, right? Later on the 4th, Mars is going to make the sextile to Neptune in Aries. And then on the 5th, Mars is going to trine Pluto in Aquarius. So those aspects give this energy a little more depth and some more potential. Mars sextile Neptune can really connect us with the vision. It's going to ask us to consider what's motivating our actions. Are we moving because we feel pressured? Are we trying to prove something? Are you responding from a place of fear? Or are we acting from this clearer sense of what truly matters? And Neptune can bring some imagination in, some compassion. It's going to add a little bit of faith, right? There's a deeper connection to the purpose. This might be a sudden idea that has some real potential for you. Could also be a disruption that reveals a more honest direction, right? Maybe it's a conversation that opens a path that would not have become visible through that old routine. The important thing is to slow down enough to recognize the difference between an impulse and an insight. Then on the 5th, Mars is going to make that trine to Pluto. This is where the energy can become more focused. Mars in Gemini really scatters our attention across many conversations, choices, possibilities. Pluto is kind of the anchor that helps us to identify the deeper issue and direct our efforts where it can actually make a difference. Mars trine Pluto is useful for things like strategy and research, for some focused planning, right? For having difficult conversations. It's awesome for problem solving and just helping us to choose a direction once you understand what's really happening, though. The emotional atmosphere also begins to kind of soften early on this day because the Pisces Moon making a trine to the Sun in Cancer. There can be this greater sense of coherence after that intensity on the 4th. And this is going to shift from scattered reaction to more purposeful action. And one of the biggest challenges with Mars Uranus is feeling that everything needs an answer immediately. Plans are going to change. Someone is going to say something unexpected. A message is going to come in. New information is going to appear before you, and the nervous system can really decide that speed is the same thing as clarity. Urgency is a feeling. It's not always an accurate measure for what truly needs your attention. So there might be moments when a quick response is necessary for sure, right? There may also be moments when the wisest thing you can do, though, is give yourself 10 more minutes, an hour, take the night to really try to understand what's happening. That's the difference between reactive energy and responsive energy. Reactive energy is driven by pressure. It wants to fix the discomfort right now. It might send you a message, right? It could be making a purchase. It might be sharing information that you've heard. It could be ending a conversation. It could also be committing to a decision before you've had enough time to think that through. Responsive energy leaves room for awareness. And responsive energy is going to ask you, what do I know for sure? What am I assuming in this situation? What information might I be missing? Or what part of this is actually mine to handle? What response would I still feel good about tomorrow if I actually made it, right? That kind of pause is especially valuable with Mars, Uranus, and Gemini because Gemini moves through information very quickly, right? A headline can create a reaction. A text message can change the tone of the entire day. One conversation could send your mind off in several directions. You do not have to shut down or avoid action. You're simply giving yourself enough space to recognize when action actually matters. So there are a few practical ways to work with this energy. Verify information before you react or pass it along, right? Build in some flexibility to your plans around things like travel, technology, communication. Allow for the details to change. And pay attention to your body. Racing thoughts, irritation, restlessness, or the urge to act immediately, those are all signs that your nervous system needs a pause, right? It needs some time before you make any sort of decision. And choose one useful action, right? You don't need to solve every problem all at once, and there could be multiple. You might need to have an honest conversation for sure. You might need to revise a plan. You may need to step away from an argument before it becomes larger than it actually needs to be. You might need some time to act on an idea that's been waiting for some sort of courage or momentum to come along. Now, the days around the 4th of July are probably going to bring some noticeable change in pace. That does not mean that every surprise is a problem. Sometimes the interruption is really showing you where more freedom is truly needed. Sometimes information reveals what's already been changing beneath the surface. This is just sort of the pop right out of the ground. And sometimes a sudden shift really helps to create an opening that wasn't available to us before. Your power comes from staying connected to yourself while the rhythm changes around you. So give yourself room to pause, check the facts, listen beneath that urgency. Let your actions be guided by what matters, not only by the adrenaline of the moment. Mars sextile Neptune is going to remind us to act with vision. Mars trine Pluto reminds us that focused action has more power than scattered reaction. And the faster the world moves, the more important it becomes to stay connected to those things that actually do matter, so that we can respond with a level of awareness rather than urgency. Take care of your nervous system during this time. Give yourself more time than urgency says you actually have, and let the changes that arrive show you where more honest direction is trying to emerge. Best of luck to all of you.